Welcome to another tutorial from 2dgameartguru.com. This is a continuation of the seamless tile tutorials. If you have not watched the earlier episodes, I recommend going back to the creation of seamless glass tile and the seamless dirt tile to get an understanding of how the tile actually is created. In this one, I'm covering what to do with your tile once you have created it in Inkscape in order to get it into your game. So we have our base tile and we want it as a PNG image. Most game engines work with PNG images, tile editors, the lot. So we need to export this to PNG. I've covered that before. Let's do it again. It's export to PNG image in the file menu. We click on that. Now the main thing is we export selection. This is the selected clip of one tile only. So we export that. We set the size to something way bigger than what we need in the game. It's always easier to scale down than try to scale up afterwards. So we create something extra large and then use a bitmap tool like gimp to scale it down. So in this case, I set my size to 514, which leaves us 1 pixel border around our tile. The reason I'm doing that is because sometimes you get problems with the anti-aliasing when you export. It's not as bad in Inkscape as it is in Illustrator or CorelDRAW. We're going to trim that 1 pixel off first and then scale the tile down. That way there's no transparent border around that will leave lines in our tile afterwards. So we set the export path. Okay, grass, give it a name. This one is our base tile. Okay, save it as PNG and click export. Now we have our 514 by 514 pixel bitmap image with the DPI that we don't care about at this stage. We'll fix that in GIMP. If you work for mobile, some game engines require you to set the DPI to fixed numbers depending on the screen resolution of the device or the requirements of the game engine. In order to do that, let's switch to GIMP. I'm using GIMP for the bitmap editing. You can also use Photoshop, Krita, whatever tool you like to work in, as long as it scales, allows you to adjust the DPI and puts out preferably compressed PNG images afterwards. Let's open the file in GIMP. Here's our base tile. I created a few variations. I'll show you those later. Okay. Let's make it nice and big. We have the canvas size in the menu file, image canvas size. Our canvas is the 415 by 415. We take it down to 512 by 512 and resize. That way we cut any transparent border that might have been created on export. It scales down when we scale it to our in-game size and we end up with some visible grid in our seamless tile. So the trimming of the canvas is done to avoid that. Afterwards we go back to image and now it's scale image. It shows us the 512 by 512. Now we set it to our in-game size, which for this sample I'll say 64 by 64 pixels, and we can adjust the dots per inch here, setting both to 72. So let's scale it. You can see the tile is a lot smaller on screen now. Let me zoom in, and you can see that our clean vector lines that were still visible in the 512 by 512 have now been rasterized, and it is rather pixely when I zoom in like this. But in the game we're gonna see it small, and that's what we care about now. So let's save this. In order to do that, we go to File, Export As, and I add an extension to the name, a small s, to show me that this is the small version of the file. Set it to Png Image, export, brings up a dialog box. Everything is okay. We can adjust the compression level, but for now I'll leave it at the highest quality and say export. Now if I go in my folder of all the tiles I have created so far, I now have my tiny version of 64 by 64. With the others I have created prior, our standard grass tile is here. We have a grass tile with some dirt in the center, some rocks, variation of the grass tile that's a little bit more dynamic. Some grass is bent further to the left, and even wilder, you can see that the border where it tiles to the other one stays identical. I just changed the inner bit. There's the dirt tile, two variations of the dirt tile, the transition, covered the transition in the earlier video. So there is a combination of the top and right, or in this case bottom and left. So we create corner pieces and two, scroll down a bit, two small grass on dirt tiles that will add some variation as well. So we go through the whole process and tile each tile to our 64 by 64 and continue from there. I've repeated the process for all tiles. You can create batch files and automate the process. GIMP allows that, Photoshop allows that, most other tools also have some kind of automation of repeating tasks, especially when you have more tiles. I also created an additional file, that's my tile set. If we go into GIMP, it looks like that. It's basically all the tiles put into one image. You can either do it manually or use tools. I used a tool called Glue It. Especially again when you have a lot of tiles, I would choose a tool that creates the tile set for you. This way we can bring it into the game engine as a tile set rather than a whole bunch of separate images. Makes it easier to handle, and instead of having a lot of load calls, only one file gets loaded, which is the tile set. I switched to a tile editor. I use Tiled. It's an editor for orthogonal, hexagonal, isometric tiles. Real easy to use, free as well. So you might want to give it a try. I created a canvas with 12 by 12 tiles and have my tile set here. You can see it filled with one tile, all grass. Now I can go in and see how it looks with the other tiles. If, for example, I pick that one, now we can see the repeating pattern. Let's go back to this one. I change to the draw tool. Now I can go in and just put a few blobs of the other grass tile in to create variation. Take some wild one, probably not that visible, but this one will show. And add some rocks, and then go in with the dirt. Also, dirt variation probably won't be visible in the video, but they give slight variations, so the dirt is not quite that even. Then I go in and create the border for the transition, so we don't have that sharp edge between the grass and the dirt. So basically we can see how our tiles work. Let's do one up here. If we just go down, it's just the vertical lines. Seeing it's a rather limited tile set, it's missing diagonal pieces, and now here you can see I touched that one, so it won't work. Need to move this one over because I don't have a piece yet that will cover an edge of dirt in opposite corners. So the more tiles you create, the more variations, the more smooth transitions you can create. Also, when I have a long line of, in this case, the top grass tile, it does look a little boring. You would want to create variation of that one if you have larger areas. Let's do 2 more just to show you. Basically, it shows that our grass tiles worked quite nicely. It is more or less seamless. You have to look real hard to find the repeating elements. Let's beautify it a little bit, and that's it. We managed to create a bitmap output of our Inkscape file. We tested it, it works. Now it's a matter of creating more variations, diagonal pieces, add water at the transitions between dirt and water. Basically, you can create whatever tile you need in Inkscape, export it to PNG, and get it ready for your game. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Please subscribe to the channel. See you soon. Have a great day.